Welcome. This is an audio experience with Maximizing Moments with Milton. Hey, Maximizers, thank you for joining me. This is Milton at MiltonHerring.com, and I've got a good episode for you today. It's a 2-in-1 special with Bob Paskins. Would you say hi, Bob?
How are you doing, everybody?
Awesome.
Good to be here.
And just to give you a little bit of background about Bob. Bob Paskins is a speaker. He's a trainer and consultant who looks to inspire people and companies to their full potential. He lives in Oregon, with his wife Danielle, and my wife loves Oregon as well. So, and 3 boys under the age of 12. Yes, he drives a minivan, as he admits. So, for 20 years, Bob worked in the financial services space as a commercial insurance broker. His 2 primary goals were to increase his sales base by attracting new customers and to lead a customer service team in keeping his current clientele happy. Bob built his business from scratch. Along the way, he gained hundreds of clients, forged relationships with key vendors and brokers, and won several sales competitions. He was promoted to sales manager and then became a principal owner in a large commercial insurance brokerage. His customer base included distributors, wholesales, contractors, nonprofits, and a Bay Area company called Yahoo. Now, Bob speaks to businesses around the country using storytelling and humor, as well as providing tangible takeaways. He also consults with companies looking to elevate their sales performance and sales processes. He is the creator of Growth Matrix, which is a comprehensive and transformative system for unlocking the full potential salespeople, sales processes, and sales performance. Please give a hearty welcome to Bob Paskins. Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate that bio and allowing our Maximizers to hear just a little bit about who you are. I mean, that's really condensed, I'm sure, out of all of the magnitude and what you've done. Can you give us some more context, catch us up to today? What got you to this point in life?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's great to be here. I think really what got me to this point was the fact that I was trying to figure out really what I was going to do when I grew up. So here I am, a 40-something person, looking around thinking, what am I going to do when I grow up? Because I'd done the commercial insurance brokerage business for quite a while, really had some good success at it. But what I realized was kind of within me, something just wasn't right. It's kind of like your car, which is a little bit out of alignment or something like that, where it's still going down the road straight, but it's fighting you as it's going one way or the other. And that's kind of what I was discovering about myself. So a couple of years ago, it really hit me that what I want to do actually is figure out what my career would look like for the next 20 years. I was sitting back and I was thinking, okay, I'm 20 years in with that's good, but I have 20 years left. What do I really want to do with these 20 years? And kind of with you, how can I maximize what I can give to others and benefit from these next 20 years of working? And so what I ended up doing was cashing in my chips. I cashed out of my insurance brokerage and decided to do really what I wanted to do. And that's basically looking to elevate others, specifically in the area of sales.
Love it. And I'm just going to, you said a couple things that really triggered me a little bit, because I found even in my own personal life and those that I've talked to that are Maximizing Nation, that there's pulls in life. You talk about being pulled in a certain direction, but you're fighting, but you want to go a certain direction and a certain way of life, but there's things that are keeping you maybe on the road or trying to keep you off the road. Tell me more about that. When you recognize that, was that an immediate response for you to say something's not right, or did it take a time? Was there a process for yourself that you had to go through in order to really realize what that was?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of those where you kind of come to the moment, but as soon as you come to the moment, I'm here and my wife is kind of elbowing me in the chops saying, I've been telling you this for 9 months. Why haven't you listened to me all during this time? That you just choose at this time to make this decision. And Milton, I kind of agree with you there, where I think it takes a number of people just kind of to direct you that way. I mean, on the other side of it, once I started telling people that I had moved away from commercial insurance into the area of providing coaching and speaking to people, they came up to me, totally you doing this. You were built for that model. So it's kind of one of those things where yes, I did have an aha moment, but it took me a long period of time and basically others kind of nudging and encouraging me in that way for me to be able to see the light and to make that change.
And I don't know if you unintentionally said this, but you said 9 months your wife was nudging you. And I think that's the same cycle of having a pregnancy, having a child, right? And so a lot of times when you get that, you're given that seed in life, and then that seed kind of germinates and it grows and grows and grows until you do finally give birth. But it takes some time, some struggle, some stretching, and so I think that's kind of cool that you use that 9 month background to say that. So and I'm really about helping other people really truly find their calling in life, and I think we have a similar passion, help people really find their calling and what they're designed and purposed to do. And the only way to do that is to go through those times of sowing, that time of having a seed planted, then having other people confirm that seed was planted. You're like, okay, finally, okay, I'm pregnant, but when is this going to give birth, right? And,
Right.
I'm going to keep going down this road, but you really haven't really developed yourself or have been stretched enough to be able to receive the full growth of that child or whatever it's been put inside of you. So I think that's totally cool with what you said about talking about your wife and confirming with others. And I think maximizers, we all have to look at that we have to be able to hear and listen to other people when they're confirming things within our own self, and not brush it off and not put it to the side, but allow it to be something that's continually watering the seed or giving sunlight to the seed that's already inside of you. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I'd say one other thing about that would be it took a leap of faith because I was kind of almost set in my ways. And that's kind of more than anything what it was is taking a leap of faith and overcoming the fear of I could have stayed and had a good career in commercial insurance, but I realized that there was something more for me. And then kind of having that leap of faith to be able to go out and again, with you kind of maximizing really what I was made for,
Right.
what my purpose was there.
Right. And another thing I'm pointing out too, Bob, is that you talked about the 20-year. You said, what am I going to do for the next 20 years? And I think I run into a lot of people that want to look at the next year, 5 years. But when you look at that macro of life, like 20 years, you're thinking, okay, I'm still young. I still got some time in front of me. How can I really utilize this time to really make it what I want it to be and not be, and I think 20 years, kind of like that mindset, kind of takes a little bit of pressure off, but at the same time, it allows you to think a little bit bigger. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I don't want to look in the short term. Basically, when I made this move, I was jumping off the deep end here. I was not kind of getting my toes in the water, but it was exciting to be able to jump, looking to see if I'm going to look to plan out my life. And man, I would encourage everyone just to try to go and find a way to plan out what your life is looking like. What do you really want your life to be? And when you do that, you typically don't say, well, I want my life to look like 1 year from now or 2 years or 5 years. They typically look to see, what do I want my life to look like for the rest of my life? Or in my personal case, what do I want my working career to look like with these next 20 years? And so if you take a look at it that way, I think you have to take a look at more of a long term of what 20 years would look like versus what 1 or maybe even 2 years would look like.
Yeah, I love that. And I know we're going to probably get into your background a little bit more as far as the sales piece of it, but in utilizing some of your strengths and what you learned, what can you share before we get into all that you learned from just the years that you've done the commercial side of things? What are some of the really key takeaways? And I don't want to steal your thunder for my maximizing moment questions, but if there's anything outside of that, that you can share, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I would say that with its commercial insurance or anything else, it's all about relationships and really maximizing the relationships. And what I would say meaning by maximizing the relationships is looking to ask questions to understand what other people, what they're going through right now, what is their situation in life, kind of coming alongside and partnering with them. I think one of the things, and we'll get into this a little bit later, is I used to be very segmented, where I would focus on one aspect of life, and then kind of like drawers, I would be able to shut that and I would open the next drawer of life and start focusing on that. And what I began to realize and where my success came was when working with my clients, they just didn't want to talk about business. They wanted to expand to personal life, to family life. How do you parent? How do we deal with this situation? All sorts of those things. And when I looked at them more as this is a good client relationship instead of I'm trying to, in a sense, sell them a commercial insurance product, my eyes opened up. And Milton, that was probably my first step going forward and saying, you know what, there's probably something more for my career than just commercial insurance.
Relationships. I love that. And when you get the heart, when you find that heart of people and serving other people, I think that's where you find your true purpose and calling in life. And it could be any area, not just in coaching, and helping people grow in that area, but there's so many other areas you can help other people and serve other people that I think could bring it even more joy to life. So I appreciate you sharing that. Awesome. I'm excited. I know that you give me a little bit of an appetizer of what the meat's coming, and I want to jump into it. Are you ready to jump into our Maximize Moment questions, Bob?
Oh man, I'm sitting with anticipation as well. I can't wait. Fire these questions at me.
Awesome, love it. All right. So here we go. Question number 1 is give us your favorite quote and explain why and how it helps you.
Sure. The quote I chose is a quote from Mark Twain. And that quote is, the 2 most important days in a person's life are the day that they are born and the day they discovered why. And really what that means to me is something that I have lived over the past few years. Just really discovering why I was here. What purpose do I have to go and live out? And going and seizing that purpose, not just seeing it, but going and seizing it and saying, this is really what I want to do for the next 20 years. It gets me up. It gets me excited in the morning. I'm jazzed to be able to talk to people about what I'm doing. I tell you, it's a lot better telling people that I work and try to elevate people as a sales coach instead of telling people I sell commercial insurance products. I mean, if you want to scare people away or have them run away in a corner, tell them you sell commercial insurance. That is the greatest way to end a conversation.
Party's over.
Party's over. Exactly right.
Now, let me even dig in a little bit more about that. I love talking about purpose as well, but what is it, the challenge? I think, I don't know if it's because I'm getting a little bit older and just speaking to a little bit more people, but what is the challenge people run in when they start thinking about purpose? Is it, for me, I'm hearing it's big, right? It's sometimes it's almost vague, is there anything that you can add to help people that are saying, I want to know what my purpose is, but how do I even start the process of getting there to really nailing it down?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would think what I would look to do is, first of all, look inside yourself and figure out what do you really enjoy doing in life. Yeah. Going back to my commercial insurance career, one of the things that kind of pushed me out of the box was I loved talking to my clients about elevating their business, seeing if we could take the business to the next level, talking about what their challenges were, what their goals were. And if I was to meet them for an hour meeting, we would spend probably 50 to 55 minutes talking about that. And then we'd have kind of this, epiphany of, oh, wait a second, I'm actually here to sell you an insurance product. Let's get through this as quickly as possible, like in another 5 minutes, right. Then go out to lunch and talk about all of our goals and everything there. So I think, first of all, you have to realize, where are my natural gifts and abilities? And then secondly, ask the people who know you well what they think about, where they see your gifts. I truly believe, and we'll kind of get into this a little bit later on, that good people want to help other good people succeed. It's kind of one of my mottos. It's one of the things I tell my clients, especially when it comes to asking for referrals with their businesses. Good people want to help other good people succeed. So if you ask these people, really, where do you see me going? Or is this good? Or what do you think about this direction? And you trust them, they're going to lead you and they're going to give you some good insight of where your next direction.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Let me ask you the second question here. Give me a moment where, when looking back, you let slip away and it impacted your life at some level.
I think I mentioned this a little bit, but I remember a moment, and this is going back to a time where I really would segment my life. So my business life, I would talk about business with them. My personal life, I would talk about personal things, and I never would have the two of them connect. So this story comes around the Christmas season back in 2008. And just to let you know, at that time, my wife was uber pregnant with our second son, who was supposedly going to be born in January. He ended up being born January 1st. And so late December, here we go. We are going out kind of to our last little social event before we're kind of nesting down and getting ready for our second son. And that happened to be our corporate Christmas party. And for our corporate Christmas party, something about our company is basically they brought together the spouses or significant others twice a year. Once for a summer barbecue and then for the Christmas party. And so I was all set to go. We were ready to go. Danny, my wife, put on her good game face because she's 9 months pregnant and not even walking, just kind of waddling at this point, and kind of looking down at the belly and almost mentally saying, when is this boy going to come out of me? I mean, it's that kind of a level. And so here we are. We're getting ready to go to the Christmas party. We show up at the hotel. We go into the convention center, and I go over to my account management team. My account management team takes a look at me. We say, Merry Christmas. Then they took a look at my wife, kind of pause for a little bit, almost an awkward amount of time, and then they look back to me. But when they look back to me, their eyes are different. Their eyes are kind of full of sadness and a little bit of hurt, because the next word struck me when they said, wow, Bob, we didn't realize that you guys were expecting. And no, at that moment it hit me, because for 9 months I could have shared with them the joyous news that we were expecting our second child, and I didn't do it because I was only focused with them on our work clientele or prospecting or bringing more clientele through the door. Wow. That because of that, I actually failed them by segmenting my life and not sharing with them a big portion of my personal life. And afterwards, I was walking back from the elevator, and my wife said, I can't believe you didn't tell them that we were expecting, basically kind of hitting me with her purse in disbelief that I had chosen to segment my life at that time. And man, I could say this, to you, Milton, to everyone on the podcast. Boy, I was wrong at that time, and it hit me like a splash of cold water that's not the way to go through life. The way to go through life is to be able to share and not segment yourself in certain areas, but to open up yourself in all areas for people to see.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story, Bob. That was a good one. Life inclusion versus life seclusion. Love that.
Yes.
Next question for you, Bob. Have you ever had a time where you knew there was more for you to do in life or accomplish, but were in a position or job or career that didn't quite line up with that? How did you maximize that moment?
Well, I think we're kind of coming back to my commercial insurance career, because I have been a goal-oriented person pretty much through my life. So when I was graduating college, my goal then was, okay, let's go and let's get a good job. And I was single at that time, and I did want to get married and have kids. So then the goal was, okay, let's see if we can go and find or trick some poor woman to marry me. And so, yeah, I was able to find Danielle, and we were able to get married. And then the next goal was, okay, I want to be able to work at my job well enough to give my wife the choice to be able to do whatever she wanted to do. If she wanted to be in the workplace, great, she could do that. If she wanted to stay home and be with the kids, great, we would financially be taken care of. And so that was my next goal, to financially get us to that point. And I was able to do that. And thinking of my next goal was, okay, before 40, what would it look like if I were to be an owner in this insurance brokerage? That would be pretty cool, to be able to put my stamp on something and to be an owner. And you know what? I did that as well. So I did achieve these goals, but truthfully, what happened was I realized that even though I achieved these goals, I did it for what I thought was the good reason, but it left me empty. Probably to use a good analogy for this, it's in our house, I have my grandfather's radio. And back then, it's a 1940s Zenith radio. When they made radios back then, they were huge because they were actually almost pieces of furniture or pieces of art, which were the showcases for everyone's living room. I mean, now you take a look at your 65-inch TV and think, wow, that's pretty awesome, or something like that. But back then, it was a radio. So those are tuned-in radios, which means in the front of it had this giant dial. And to kind of use this analogy, where I was I was able, kind of like the radio frequency, to be able to kind of half hear what was going on, but there was a whole lot of static. And it took a lot of strain to really be able to hear what was going on. So what I realized what I had to do was try to find a way to kind of remove the static. And what that meant for me, kind of using this radio analogy, was I had to go to that big dial and just fine-tune it a little bit. And as soon as I started to fine-tune it a little bit, the static went away and I got the clear frequency. And I think that's really what, using that analogy, made me take the step from commercial insurance to going out into helping other companies with sales coaching and sales consulting. Because that took, the insurance piece was the static. And once I took that static away, man, I had that frequency. You could hear it and you could actually enjoy listening to it.
Wow, so many nuggets, Maximizers. Bob is dropping on you today, and I really hope you're taking notes or listen to this again. So thanks for sharing that story.
Sure.
Next question for you, Bob. Do you have a story time when maximize the moment was important and meaningful to you?
Yeah, I think going back to the same thing, the maximizing moment was actually deciding to make the change from commercial insurance. So for me, when I was offered this job, it was very interesting. I remember this. When I was offered the job at the insurance brokerage, which I ended up owning, the president at that time said, "We have a path for you to go to ownership." And I found that attractive. And then he used this analogy. He's like, "You know what this is? And when you go through this process, we kind of put these golden handcuffs on you, and the fact that this could be the spot that you could live and work for the rest of your career." And when I started, I was focusing, Milton, on the word golden when it came to the golden handcuffs piece of it, where, okay, great, I could do this, and financially I'd be able to be taken care of for the rest of my career. But as I was going into these years, the word golden was losing its luster. And the word that it was stuck on me was handcuffs. Because I would, if my career path was to continue in this area, I would be handcuffed to this position for the next 20 years going forward. And that to me really started to be restricting and confining. And I could kind of feel the rub of the handcuffs on my wrists anymore. And instead of focusing on that golden piece, it was the uncomfortable point that I'm actually chained to this company. Do I really want to be handcuffed to this company? Is this something that I really want to do? And the ultimate choice was, no, I don't. So what does it mean to take the golden handcuffs off? Well, it probably means that I have to go out and find something new, and that can be a little bit scary to do that. But Milton, if I do that, the handcuffs are off, and I'm able to go and figure out exactly what I want to pursue. And that was my maximizing moment of, okay, that's great. Let's take the handcuffs off. Let's feel that freedom, and let's see what's out there.
Wow, that's a good one. That is a good one. Thanks for sharing that, Bob. Handcuffs, come off. That's
yes.
right.
Take those golden handcuffs off. Yes.
Here's number 5 for you, Bob. How would you define a maximizing moment?
I would say, for me anyway, if I'm going to define a maximizing moment, it's kind of two parts to it. The first one is to go out and keep your eyes open to see what opportunities might come your way. And then the second part is when you see those opportunities, take that step forward, seize that opportunity, step out in faith to do that. I mean, it's and one of the things I still so this is a balance of, do I choose faith or do I choose fear when I start my day? And if I choose fear, it completely changes how I go about doing that day. If I choose fear, I keep almost waiting for the shoe to drop or the ceiling to crash down on me or all of these bad things to occur instead of really looking out and trying to optimize what could be out there for me. And that's where choosing faith comes in. It's like, okay, great. I believe in this law of abundance, that there are a number of people who are out there who want to work with me. I have faith in myself. I have faith in what I've been able to do for other people. So I have faith that I can do this going forward. And choosing faith over fear. I mean, you take a look at that with other areas of life, and I'll go back to when I was younger. You know, if you didn't choose faith over fear, how would you ride a bike? Because that's
right.
You see other people do it and it looks fun and you get to go fast, which means you're going to have to take the training wheels off and you're going to have to pedal. And yeah, you might fall down a little bit or two, but you're going to be able to go fast. You're going to be able to ride a bike and get a skill. Or the same thing with jumping off the high diving board, the deep end. Man, that's a lot of fun to do, but it's kind of scary that first time as you're up there and you're looking down and thinking, is this really a smart move? Is this fun? The fear kind of locks you up. And I don't know about you, Milton, or the people on the podcast here. I've been locked up by fear before. And what a dark place that is. Yeah. So that's what I try to choose. You know, how do I define a maximizing moment? Keep your eyes open to see where the opportunity is, and then when you have it, just seize it with both hands and hang on.
Awesome. That is good. Having the courage to step forward and seize an opportunity when it's presented. Thanks for sharing that, Bob. So here's my next one. This is, and Maximize are all about actionable steps, and I know you've got a couple for me that you're going to knock us out with. But if you could share 3 immediate action steps to take for a person to maximize a defining moment in their life, what would that be?
Yeah, boy, I mean, there's so many things to go. So I'll try to narrow these down as best as I can, which is what helped me. The first thing was I would encourage everyone just to go and take ownership of your life. There's a quote by John Atkinson, which I absolutely love, which says, if you don't run your life, somebody else will run it for you. And I think that's really true, especially in the business sense where, yeah, you can go and have other people run your life, but is that really doing what you want to do? So know who you are, know what you believe, and then go out and actually go and run your life. The second part about that is know what your strengths are, know what your gifts are, know what your passions are, and then go and pursue them. One of the books that I was reading kind of during my transition time was Strength Finders 2.0 by Tom Rath. And I don't know if you've read that, Milton.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you, if you haven't done that, or your podcasters, just to do that. Pick up that book, because I view the best thing for us to do is to build upon our strengths. Figure out what our strengths are and go and do those things. Some other people might say, you know what, yeah, you might have some weaknesses that are left out there. I say, for those weaknesses, in a sense, go and find other people where your weaknesses are their strengths and look to partner with them. But man, if you're able to know, discover, and follow what your strengths are, what your gifts are, what your passions are, it brings a joy to life. Right. So, I mean, very tangible. If you haven't read Strength Finders 2.0, please go out and get it and go and focus on those strengths.
Yes.
The third thing is, it sounds kind of, maybe the better way to say this is, you know, it kind of makes it sound like I've taken this jump by myself, and that's not true. there have been a number of people who have come with me on this transition from going from commercial insurance out to being a sales speaker and a sales consultant. What I would encourage, what helped me out, and I heard this from a mentor of mine, was for me to come out and get what I call a personal board of directors. And when I say a personal board of directors, what that is, that's 3 or 4 people that can be a part of your life that you meet with on a routine basis, which they love you, they want the best for you, and they can speak truths into your life. I find that just to be, it's been one of the greatest things that I've been able to do is find this personal board of directors. We meet on a quarterly basis, and it's great because I kind of tell them what's going on in 4 areas: in my work, with my wife, with my kids, and for me personally, with my faith. And these guys are able to sit down with me and basically say, that's great. Or basically also, they have the freedom to call me out and say, you know what, Bob, that's a load of crap that you just gave us. And I love the fact that they are for me to such a degree that they can be absolutely brutally honest. And so I love this. So I would encourage all of the maximizers out there, find a personal board of directors, 3 or 4 people, and then meet with them quarterly. One of the things that was kind of a hang-up for me that I had to get over was asking and finding those people who would be on my personal board. But Milton, what I can tell you was they unanimously accepted and they felt honored to be on my personal board of directors.
That's awesome.
Because I was afraid. I would say, why would they want to do that? No, it was exactly the opposite. They were honored and humbled that I would choose them to be on this board. And I tell you, I look forward to these quarterly meetings every single time.
That's awesome. I love that. Know who you are and what you believe. Know your strengths, gifts, and passions, and pursue them, and know who your people are. I love the whole personal board of directors and quarterly meetings. That is awesome. Hope you're taking notes, Maximizers. Good stuff. Here's my next one for you, and you can, here's a couple minutes I'll give you, but do you have any parting words or comments or instructions that for the audience you want to share?
Probably the best way for me to answer that question is if I'm going to look back 10 years, and if I were to have a question with Bob from 10 years ago, what would I say to him at that time? 2 things. The first thing is stretch, because you're getting older and your muscles don't respond like they normally would. So every morning, please stretch. I need to do that more. But more on a serious level, I would tell the younger version of me, focus on my personal growth and development as much as my professional growth and development. Because I believe what we're trying to do here is not become good insurance brokers or good in whatever field you are. That to me is very segmented, and it doesn't show the true value of who you are. Look at full personal growth and full personal development. It's a great way to round yourself out. It's a great way, honestly, to become more interesting and to learn about interests from other people as well. So, what does that mean? In this day of information, day and age of information, I would say find great books to read. Go out. There are great podcasts like this one to listen to. But go out and find ways to grow personally while you are growing professionally, and as well as, I would say, of course, growing hopefully relationally with your family and friends.
Awesome. Those are some good words to part with, and I really do want my Maximizers to follow up with you, Bob. And where can they find you? What are you promoting right now? Book, website, videos, or anything like that?
Sure. We'll start with the best way to reach me. If this hit anyone and they want to talk more to me or more about me, I'll give you my email. My email is very simple. It's bob@bobpaskins.com. And Paskins is spelled P as in page, ASKINS. So bob@bobpaskins.com. Or feel free to visit my website, which is simply enough, bobpaskins.com. Ultimately, I'm not really here to promote anything. What I love doing is adding value to other people. But having said that, if you know, or if you're part of a company that just needs someone to come in and speak to them, especially around their sales or executive teams, basically what I do is I work with teams that are kind of stuck in a rut. You know, you can almost say I'm the tow truck driver for the sales industry, because I go out and I see people who are stuck in a rut, and I look to say, okay, how can we get you out and back to where you really want to be? So if there's anyone out there who's in that industry specifically and would love to talk to me, that's great. But more than anything, I love what you're doing, Milton, with your Maximizing podcast, and I'm just here to add value to you and to these listeners.
Awesome, Bob. I've really enjoyed this episode today. And Maximizers, please reach out to Bob. The few conversations I've had with him, they have been quality, and I'm speaking to his integrity and his character as well. He has a lot to offer, and I really hope that you take advantage of that, as he wants to be of an asset, a friend, a mentor, a coach, a guide in your journey of life. So thank you, Bob. Appreciate all that you do. And as always, Maximizers, you know why I do these podcasts, to help you maximize any given moment in your life towards success. God bless you, and thank you so much for your time. Until then.